Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Patafi. Once again, we are going to talk about Pakistan's quite interesting politics. One, we have already discussed as yesterday the JKT issue. Jahangir Tareen's group of Hadain went and met the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and it seemed that all those supporters were actually focusing on one thing, to get relief for Jahangir Tareen. And amazingly, in that meeting, a couple of names were mentioned. There was objection raised by those people to certain individuals. For example, Shahzad Akbar. Yesterday was also a very interesting day because simultaneously, in a split screen situation, while on one side we were learning more about JKT's meeting or his allies meeting with the Prime Minister, one channel was airing a lot of concerns by Bashir Memon, who is a former director, DG of FIA. And while he was saying that he was put under pressure to actually go after various political opponents and to actually frame cases, including certain cases against one of the honorable judges of the honorable court. At that time, we saw that the very same person was being pointed out, and we have just shown you the response tweets that came from Shahzad Akbar, that came from the law minister of the country. These are quite interesting claims, and there are very interesting answers that are given as well. We will try to actually look at both of these matters, but there is another issue that is very important. Today, 200 people died of COVID-19. This is the highest number that we have seen so far. And at that time, while this is the situation, and of course mitigation activities are going on in Pakistan, and the government of Pakistan has deployed army, the by-elections in NA 249 Karachi are going to take place without any hindrance. The question is, at this moment we have seen the live theatre of absurd in India, and how Kumbh Mela and umpteen other similar incidents, especially the Bengal elections and Bihar elections, actually led to a spike. The question right now is, who's going to ensure that there is no spike in Karachi after tomorrow's elections? And if that happens, who should be held responsible for what exactly is happening? We are going to talk about all these matters in order to help us understand these issues in the studio. We are joined by Ahmed Jawad Sahab, who is Central Secretary Information, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the ruling party. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Hafiz Ahsan Ahmed Khokar Sahab, who is a legal expert, joins us in the studio as well. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. And on Skype, we are joined by Dr. Niaz Mirza, who is a political analyst, also a political economist and a columnist of renown. Thank you very much, Dr. Sahab, for being part of the program as well. Let me ask all of you one by one. First of all, why are we holding elections, by-elections in Karachi tomorrow, when we know they are risk to people's health? Ahmed Jawad Sahab.
I think first of all, this decision is taken by the Chief Election Commission or the Election Commission of Pakistan.
Okay.
So it's not a government decision, a decision by the Election Commission.
Have you contested it?
No, not contested. And in my opinion, if we can continue any activity following SOP, I think there is no harm.
Do you think SOPs are being followed?
No, SOPs perhaps will never be followed unless army is on the street and on the roads. Okay. I think there is a problem with our cultural behavior, social behaviors, and whatever you tell them, the death toll is 200 plus, death toll, even if it increases, people are not going to paying attention to any such advice. Right. And unless
so what solution immediately comes to your mind? Army on streets? or
They are already-
or postponing the elections?
I think there is no harm. Election is tomorrow, and I think it should-
There's precious little we can do about it. But then, if there's a spike, everybody will be asked why exactly what they are allowed to take place. Let me bring in Hafiz Ahsan Khokhar. Sir, who do you think should be held responsible if there's going to be some kind of increase in numbers, COVID infections in Karachi? You know the legal structure, you know the electoral system as well. Do enlighten us. Who should be held accountable?
Thank you so much. This is a very important issue now, and this is a serious health issue in Pakistan. But if you look at for the last 2 months, there have been another election in Punjab as well. In the Daska, there is one election, and then there is another election at that time. But in this election, there are certain reservations from the other side as well by the public and by some candidates. They should be postponed. But ultimately, under the Constitution, it is the prerogative of the Chief Election Commission of Pakistan. They have some information about it that might be, according to him, that some SOPs will be followed and there will be no spike in this pandemic. But on the state side, it should be postponed.
Just counter question. In the studio yesterday, I had an anchor who went to Daska, the election that you actually mentioned, and he says that when he reached there, he contracted COVID, and then he suffered here when he came back. Do you think that there are lessons here?
Definitely there are lessons there, and if in that particular situation, when in the world there is going to be lockdown, in Pakistan we are going to lock down in another couple of days, the Election Commission should consider on it, and there should be no harm if in that situation the election is postponed for a couple of days. So there is no problem with the constituency or with the problem of the elections. I strongly recommended that should have been postponed, but now the schedule is on, and might be you will see tomorrow there will be a low turnout as well in that area because of the COVID situation.
Because of COVID situation and umpteen political reasons as well. But I only wanted to fix responsibility. I wanted to know who exactly should be asked if there is a fallout. Let me bring in Dr. Niyaz Mirza as well. Dr. Saab, we are going to talk about a whole host of topics, but let me begin by actually asking you about the bad election in Karachi tomorrow. Do you agree with the decision that it should be held at all in this circumstance? When Daska elections were taking place, the numbers were not so staggering. Today they are.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's such a big spike. This wave is looking much more ominous than the first two waves. And, if we could have postponed, there were about 8 to 10 by-elections which had been postponed for months. I think this was a simple task. This is just one by-election, and it could have easily been postponed for a couple of months. As far as responsibility is concerned, it's obviously, the decision of the Election Commission of Pakistan primarily. So, whatever you blame or whatever you want to assign, it has to be, Election Commission of Pakistan. And then secondly, of course, you also need to talk about, the political parties. They should have, made sure that, if they are doing their canvassing, they follow more rigorous SOPs. But, you see various pictures and reports that, none of the parties are following any kind of SOPs. And then, finally, again, back to the Election Commission of Pakistan, they should have, imposed stringent SOPs for the, actual voting tomorrow, in terms of, maybe, staggering the election and so on, making, masks essential, and any other step that they could have taken. But you just see, in situation after situation, whether it's elections, whether it's, religious gatherings, whether it's, Ramzan, Taraweehs and so on, just in about every walk of life, people are just, adopting a very casual attitude, and, that's very unfortunate, because this is a very serious wave in which there are so many different variants which are much
Dr.
more.
Sir, I'm glad that you have actually highlighted this point. I want to ask you, because indirectly or directly, both of us are linked to media. You also contribute to the papers. Have you come across, because we are actually talking about responsibility of everybody else, let me ask you, have you come across, framing of the issue in such a way that somebody in the media might have pointed out that this can have a fallout? Have you seen any talk shows? Have you seen any columns in the papers that any 249 by-elections might actually impact the COVID situation in the country?
Well, I think, the People's Party raised this issue, and they had, I think, even made a request to the Election Commission of Pakistan to postpone it. Now, whether, they were guided more, and in the sense that, it's the government in charge in Sindh. So, I guess after Election Commission of Pakistan, it's the Sindh government which has to have responsibility, not so much for the election, but for controlling, the epidemic within the city. So, they did make a request. Now, whether they were guided by, their own interests, that they may have been thinking that they might lose if the elections were held so soon.
Yeah, but I was, Dr. Saab, I was not talking about any political party. I was talking about the responsibility of the media. I, for one, Ahmed Jabbar Saab, did not see any media house actually highlighting this issue at all. And I think it is a big failure of the media also, because we frame the narrative and we play a role as well, right?
But you see, the media also comes from the same, people who are not very socially and culturally responsive to such pandemics or corona SOPs.
Okay.
So, it's a national culture.
Okay.
So, the media cannot be from Hollywood or from America.
No, but,
it is same people.
Are you telling me that we should stop expecting any model, any exhibition of morals or principles from
No,
the
I'm not
media,
saying that.
because that might
I
not
appreciate.
exist in the society?
I appreciate your question. You are also from media, and you have very rightly raised this question.
Okay.
It's a pertinent question, it's a timely question, and this should have been deliberated in media. If so many other things 24/7 are deliberated, debated, listened, and even sometimes government has to respond to that. Sometimes judiciary has to respond to the subjects hyped by the media. So this could also be. So I tend to agree with you. I did not see anything from the media on the repercussions or the impact of holding an election in this pandemic. But at the same time, what I have learned from the press conference of Sindh Chief Minister, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, what he presented, the situation looked much better in Sindh and Karachi compared to other parts of the.
Right.
This is what they were claiming.
So let us jinx it by holding an election. But regardless, Ahmed Jabbar, let us move on to another issue, and that is the meeting that took place between the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the head of your party, and a dissident group supporting Jahangir Tareen.
Why do you call them dissident?
Because they are calling themselves dissident. They are saying that we are going to walk.
No, they have grievances.
They have grievances,
Yeah.
but dissent is there, right?
Yeah.
And that dissent, interestingly, is not principled. That is merely based on one person's grievances, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the question that is being asked is that the Prime Minister shouldn't have met these people.
Why not? He is the chairman of the party, and there are 30 to 40 representatives in Punjab Assembly or in the National Assembly. They belong to PTI, a party which is chaired by Imran Khan, and they have some grievances, some complaints.
Like what?
And
Like what?
one of them, the most important, of course, is that Jahangir Tareen is being victimized.
One. Number two.
The other
Jahangir
characters.
Tareen. Number three,
In fact,
Jahangir Tareen. Number four, Jahangir Tareen.
No. I tell you, once the media was meeting this group of people, the same question which you have asked me, it was asked.
Okay.
And the answer from this group of people was that we are not disclosing our all the complaints and grievances to media. We'll meet Prime Minister today, and after that we will tell you about all the questions or objections which we have. And they have not. And they have not.
And then they have met. And then they have spoken to media. Raja Riaz Sahab was
Yeah,
on television yesterday.
So it was primarily focused on Jahangir Khan Tareen, and they pointed out, they pointed towards Shehzad Akbar and some officials in the Prime Minister House. They also objected to the nomination of Ali Zafar as negotiating team
So it was
appointed by
one
Prime
point
Minister.
agenda, and it was all the disconnected people who are not actually related to Jahangir Tareen, asking for his right to be represented. And of course,
don't know,
Jahangir Tareen is accused of corruption, right?
Yes, he is.
So your policy, one policy is that there should be one principle, one justice system for all.
And I think this is what exactly was the statement of Prime Minister Imran Khan after this meeting and during the meeting, that he will not compromise for justice,
I have
for accountability. So, I mean, he conveyed this thing. This was his responsibility as chairman of the party, that he should listen to them.
Right.
But at the same time, he has expressed his opinion about the grievances which they had, that there will be no discrimination as far as accountability is concerned, as far as justice is concerned, or the implementation of law is concerned.
Right.
He made it very clear. He said, I would not like to be a prime minister who gets under pressure.
Right.
So,
but there are two concerns that I'm going to flag later. But first, let me go back to Ehsan Khokhar Sahab. Ehsan Khokhar Sahab, and that is the issue that we have to talk about. Let me ask you two aspects. One, whether you think that it was right to meet these people. Secondly, there are reports about a change of investigative officer. Do you think it is normal to actually change that officers while they are investigating certain things?
On the political side, it is the president or the chairman of the party. He can meet to his members, and the members can meet to the party, or either he is the prime minister of the country. But on the other side, as a legal side, it should not have been. Because if there is a specific demand by these people, and primarily they have the demand to change the investigating officer, which is done by the federal government, and the investigating officer is changed. So it gives another impression.
Okay.
We first appreciate the government that the Prime Minister is doing on many areas, and he is talking about to take action against the mafias, either in the wheat or either in the sugar. But here there is a lack of legal strategy for the implementation. The whole spin in that argument, the members who went to the Prime Minister was that there is not a single word about the sugar. The FIR was registered in consequence of the Sugar Commission report and after the forensic audit. So if you are going on that side, then you should have been very clear on that. What is your task? The task was, the TOR was, who is responsible, why there was a price hiking, why there is a collaboration or the SETA in that area. So you went on that. But here in that particular cases, they are pointing out, and even I have seen the FIR, it should have been in a better way to take the implementation of the Sugar Commission report. But at the same time, if you talk about the change of the investigating officer, it gives the wrong impression, and the government can't do.
No, but that I understand. The optics are there. The question is it a usual matter? Because yesterday I was listening to various representatives of the government, and they said that even in Thana Kachari, if you have objection to the investigating officer, you can be given this relief. That person is changed.
It can't be. It can't be. the Thana Kacharis, they are being dealt under the police order 2002. So it is not easy under the police order 2002 to change the investigation. There is a process, there is a board of the investigation. You file a complaint over there, discuss on it, and then it is being transferred. So it is not easy to, as they are saying it. But on the other side, it is the federal government, or the federal government not means the IO is working under the DDFIA, and the DDIFIA himself was the chairman of the commission. He is better in a position to say on it, but usually in that particular situation, when the investigation is on and the concerned officer is conducting the investigation and he is calling the different persons who involved in the whole exercise, there should be refrains sometimes.
Right, this is an important aspect. Let me bring in Dr. Niaz Mirza again. Dr. Niaz Mirza, you have listened to the discussion so far. You can talk about anything that has been said earlier. But let me ask you also, regarding the opposition's attitude towards Jahangir Tareen issue, because it seems that everybody was demanding that there should be one standard of accountability. Then we see that the federal government has finally gone after someone who is very influential in the party and who is quite rich also. And we have seen that how many people have come forward for his support. All of a sudden, we keep hearing that PMLN offered Jahangir Tareen actually while he was in UK to join PMLN, and yesterday Maryam Nawaz was also commenting on it, hoping that there will be some kind of disagreement. Why is it that political parties, especially those who call themselves principled or traditional parties, cannot actually stick to their own principles?
Yeah, I mean, there are layers after layers of issues involved in this matter. I mean, the most obvious one is, the highly politicized manner in which, accountability is being, undertaken in Pakistan. So it's not just, the opposition parties which are now complaining of bias and of, improper methods. It's even, voices within the party, the core of the party, the ruling party, and then, of course, personalities from the judiciary who are making, similar charges that, accountability is not even-handed, it's not transparent, it seems to be biased, and it seems to be driven by, tendencies to be revengeful, and so on. So, that's really the biggest challenge for the PTI, which had come to power on the promise of, accountability, fair accountability. So there is, on the one hand, the issue that, that the process is being so hugely criticized on almost a 360-degree manner. And then there is also the fact that despite this highly objectionable and controversial process, the outcomes are almost near zero. You hardly see, people getting, convicted and, sent behind bars, or money being, recovered. So it's just become a complete hash in all its aspects, both, the process and the outcome.
But surely you can see the principle involved in JKT issue, right? Someone who is very influential, and there was this impression that nobody can go after him. Finally, there is an investigation against him, and all of a sudden we see these pressure groups emerging within PTI. On the other side, we see political parties that were criticizing the government for sparing its own, all of a sudden welcoming JKT to their side.
Yeah, I mean, there were some steps taken against JKT, and those should be welcome given that he's so central to the party. But then still, you can see huge differences in the processes applied to the opposition. If he had been in the opposition, he would have been behind bars for months and months, even before conviction, even before indictment. Whereas he was allowed to go out to London for many months, and then he came back, but no action was taken. So it's still
I don't want to actually interrupt you, but let me remind you that PMLN's ex-Prime Minister is also abroad.
He has also
gone, and he doesn't seem to be coming back.
Who are languishing in jail. So you don't really see a very even-handed process clear rules and regulations, transparency, why certain people who are just too big are allowed to even go abroad, whereas, smaller leaders,
That's a good question.
Even not smaller leaders,
That is a good question. Allow me to come back to the studio and ask Ahmed Jawad Sahab. Explain to me, why did you have to change the investigating officer?
No, this is something which is very much official, and it must be in the knowledge of the Interior Minister.
Okay.
Perhaps it is beyond my...
I wanted to say that you represent his party, but you
Yeah, of
don't.
course,
He is not from your party.
No, it's
The Interior Minister.
the transfers and change of officer is a very much official government administrative subject, and these transfers are obviously made on the files with some pretext, some reasons, and they are not made part of the media discussion.
Right.
So we are not obviously given such kind of information that we go and discuss on the media. So it's a transfer, but like many officers change, so he has been changed. So
Another officer, I'm going to call him
Yeah.
officer, although he is advisor to the Prime Minister, but he is not elected. Shahzad Akbar Sahab, it is not for the first time that he has become subject of controversy. First, we saw Badot Sheet, and there were very harsh exchanges between the accuser and Shahzad Akbar Sahab. Then we saw your own party's members actually complaining about him. And then comes the third issue, Bashir Memon. Again, he is also criticizing the same gentleman. So, when you talk about somebody's strength, give me the USPs, unique selling a proposition about Shahzad Akbar Sahab. Why is he so unique that no matter who actually criticizes him, Prime Minister is going to stick to him?
Faraj, you tell me, what happens to a bad cop?
Okay. Okay.
So good cop, bad cop, you have heard about it. So there is always a bad cop who has to take the difficult part, and I think in PTI government, Shahzad Akbar has that difficult, investigating corruption is not a very easy job.
But he is not
You really have
investigating,
to,
right? You have agencies which investigate.
Of course, but he's leading the accountability from the PTI government,
Okay.
and obviously FIA, not NAB, but other agencies, they are also reporting to him, and he's leading the accountability slogan and the accountability campaign of PTI government.
Right.
And so that is why he's
No,
exposed to so many questions.
I ask this because there is a perception about your party that you have changed 4 finance ministers. Information ministers have been changed repeatedly. Similarly, many other important posts have been, people come and go. Interior minister, for that matter, there have been more than one. First for the Prime Minister, then a junior minister, then another minister who was sidelined, and now Sheikh Rashid Saab. If somebody is never moved, people have to ask what exactly is the USP. I mean, he must bring in a lot of expertise in certain areas. That's why he is there.
No, are you objecting to the appointment of the Shahzad Akbar? Are you objecting to the frequent changes in the government positions?
I'm not objecting to anything. I'm just
Questioning.
asking you a question that if there is somebody who cannot, who seems immovable, there must be something unique about it.
And this question is related to Shahzad Akbar.
Yeah.
Of course. Shahzad Akbar, like I said, accountability was the slogan of PTI, especially Imran Khan. And whatever has been started with regard to the accountability from the day one, in 2.5 years, it all has been led, it all has been conducted, it all has been supervised by one advisor to Prime Minister Shahzad Akbar.
Right.
So I think if you have to continue this accountability and there is no change in your intention or determination and resolve that you really want to take the accountability seriously without any discrimination, without any pressure. So obviously you would like to continue with the person you have started, and you are satisfied with his performance.
You realize the implication of this statement about one ministry. Then what are you saying about other ministries, right? Allow me to allow me to go back to Ahsan Khokhar Saab. Ahsan Khokhar Saab, again, I'm going to flag the same issue. Bashir Memon interviews upon interviews. And then his particularly targeting one, Shahzad Akbar, then the law minister, then certain bureaucrats. And the question right now is, why is it that everyone becomes a revolutionary once they have left their job? Why can't we bring about that revolution while we are still at it?
Farooq, this is the problem actually of the country is, and there is a general perception among these bureaucrats when they are in the seat, they cannot move and they can't move forward for the country. But when they are out of the seat, they are giving very good lectures and they talk about the reforms and they are very close to the people and they talk about the issues of the people and they said they have the capacity and they have the vision to implement.
After that bright introduction, let me ask you another question. Memon Saab has made certain claims on television. It seems that he has a whole host of, complaints about various people. Was the media only, possible place where he could get justice for whatever he is claiming? But there are other avenues.
I'm going another side on that area. This is the problem of our judicial system of the country.
Okay.
If he speaks on some other country, like we talk about the developed countries, the repercussions would have been in a different way. But in that country where there is a weak legal system, where is this legal implementation side, you can come on the TV and you speak on, and you are saying without evidence or evidence, it matters no what, but this is a political statement and they are making on it. And in that particular situation, if you talk about in that situation is that now we are standing out of 126 countries, we stand on the 120th countries in terms of transparency, governance and the justice system. So this is a bigger issue. JTT is a smaller issue, the justice system is a bigger issue.
Right.
Memon is a smaller issue, justice is a bigger issue.
Yeah.
And the government has a manifesto for the implementation and for the institutions of the judicial reforms.
Right.
The government should go on it. Now this is the matter when someone in the behind the bar, he says the government is against me, judiciary is not
everybody
against me.
says they are victim.
When he is out of the bar and he is saying the government is criticizing me.
Hypothetical, because you are a lawyer also and a legal expert. I am Bashir Memon and I come to you that I have resigned from my job and I have these grievances. Where should I go to flag them and to make sure that the people who might have targeted me or pressured me should be held accountable? Should I go to the media or should I go to this, that or the other body? Where should I go?
If you are in the service, you can go to the chief executive of the country because he is your authority.
The Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister of Pakistan, if someone has called me and he has asked me. So Prime Minister is the competent authority, he can go on.
And if he is complaining about the Prime Minister?
And now he is complaining about the Prime Minister of Pakistan after the retirement. So now we should look at his statement, what he is saying. And now yesterday he was on the TV and today he was as well on the TV in different programs and he was confident to speak on it, and now there is a rebuttal on the other side by the secretary by the state minister.
The buttons now come as tweets.
And by on the other side. So now the problem is the government should focus on justice system, administrative justice
that
system.
is true.
This is the area.
But if I am Bashir Memon, hypothetical, where should I go?
No, he is
judiciary?
No, not judiciary is not a judiciary subject.
Any ombudsman?
It is not the maladministration. Basically, he is trying to explain he was influenced and he was asked to do something.
Yeah, he's claiming that.
He is claiming that in that particular period when he was in service.
Yeah.
So this is the issue, and that issue, first of all, he has to prove who is the responsible, who has asked him. And if you come on the both sides statement, and both will say to you, on the media, they will go to the court, and the best strategy would be one go for the defamation, another would respond it. So
Yeah.
it keeps going on.
And we have seen that a defamation suit has been filed.
It years and years.
Yeah, and Shahzad Akbar has actually sent him notice worth crores, I am told. But again, Dr. Niaz Mirza, why is it that these things never conclude? And secondly, why is it that everybody is so hell-bent on scandalizing everything?
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you don't have, a very strong justice and accountability system. Then it gets used for political purposes. And the reason why, nothing ever seems to conclude is that in almost any case, there are so many people involved, some from the government side, some from the opposition side, that ultimately they realize that, taking this thing too much forward or dragging it on will just bring, everybody down, perhaps even the system down. So, they just threaten each other. They know that, this now, Mr. Shahzad Akbar has filed a defamation suit. He knows it's going to, drag in courts forever and nothing is going to come out. But politically, he can say or try to use this filing of defamation case as a proof of his innocence. And, that might fool somebody. But, the question again comes back, this kind of charges that Mr. Memon has made. This is not the first time that such charges are being made. Other people have made similar charges of being pressurized to, file charges against some person, dig up evidence or hide evidence, do whatever. There was this judge who died, he had made similar, charges of, being forced to give, convictions and judgment. So it just shows. And, Mr. Ahmed Jawad was saying that, at the center of this accountability system sits Mr. Shahzad Akbar. So then I think if the government spokesperson is saying that, then we can very easily pin the blame for this highly flawed accountability system on Mr. Shahzad Akbar. And if the PTI is willing to change so many other ministers and advisors.
Here's the question. I'm glad that you have actually given me a couple of examples. Particularly, you spoke about the judge, accountability judge who eventually died. It seems that when it comes to the national discourse, we don't see nuances. For example, that statement was not made in a court of law. It was made in his own drawing room. Somebody was privately recording it, and that was leaked to the media. Nobody has ever asked how that privacy breach went on and who should be held responsible. Similarly, in this case also, I can sit here and make any claim whatsoever because I've been somewhere, right? I might have any position of power. Why is it that these people don't face any consequences if they make wild claims without any evidence?
Well, of course, there is, the burden of proof, of course, that you can't accept any statement made. So, yeah, obviously, anybody Mr. Memon has accused legally and technically stands innocent until and unless, the evidence is proved. But then, there is also the fact that, a lot of these conversations happen face to face and, there's no written record, there's no recording. So it's not also very easy to, prove these things in a court of law. But we are not sitting in a court of law. We are here to, judge things not on, beyond reasonable doubt basis, but, the balance of probabilities. If you try to, just take a look at, the whole picture, how the whole system is being run and how politics usually runs in Pakistan, then you can say that, at least I will not outrightly reject it and, keep an open mind and at least give it some substance and say that it might have...
That is precisely my point actually. The confirmation bias at this moment makes it look like a big deal. And then all of a sudden, the way we scandalize everything, it has a patronizing effect on perhaps the things which were right. I'm told, Ahmed Jawad Sahab, that we are left with 3-4 minutes. So I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to ask you if you want to actually rebut the claims by Bashir Memon, you can, and then tell me you have been in power for 3 years. Why haven't you fixed or improved the libel laws, the defamation laws, so that if Farooq Prataphi makes vile claims about you and impugns your name, he faces some consequences?
Farooq, you raised a very pertinent question when you said that if I am Bashir Memon, where should I go?
Yeah.
I think in the civil administration structure, I'm sure I'm not an expert on the civil administration or civil services, but I'm sure there must be a procedure for presenting your grievances while you are in the service, and which is related to the unlawful command, unlawful order.
Right.
So any government official, if he faces an unlawful command or unlawful order, he has a way to refuse and put up his grievances through proper channel to his immediate boss, and if it is not heard, he can escalate his channel to the next higher authority. So it is absolutely within the government procedure anywhere in the world, and I'm sure Hafiz Ahsan Sahab can better explain that how these things can be handled, because he had been in the Ombudsman office, so he knows this thing. So Bashir Memon, if he had these unlawful command according to his claim, unlawful influence, why he did not put up his grievances while he was in the service, when the service structure allows him to do so.
Right.
So it could have been in black and white. Now it is just claims.
And libel laws will have to have another program.
They need obviously improvement.
No, there has to be some accountability.
Yeah.
And your government has to answer why you haven't actually passed any laws. I'm told that we have run out of time. Ahmed Jawad Sahab, thank you very much for your precious time. Hafiz Ahsan Khokhar Sahab, thank you very much for your time as well. Dr. Niaz Mirza, thank you very much for your precious time as well. Viewers, in this country, everything has been made controversial in the past. When you talk about history, there are claims upon claims where Ziaul Haq is also a martyr and Zulfi Bhutto of Pakistan is also a martyr. They were thought to be enemies, and yet in our narrative everything is contested. That being so, the question is, all these issues pertain to institution building and oversight mechanisms. Whenever we talk about these issues, in the end, it is only the threat of libel laws or defamation suits and nothing else. Why is it that we haven't worked on these institution building issues? And if they have been flagged now, why not do it now? This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.